Hello everybody and welcome to the Sparkling Autos YouTube channel. Now, regular viewers to the channel may remember that a couple of months back I did a video comparing my then 1-year-old Karcher K4 to my 7-year-old Karcher K2. So in this video I'd like to look at the K4 in a bit more depth. What do I like about the machine, what do I not like about it, and what have I replaced to suit my particular circumstances. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Before I actually switch the machine on, the first thing I need to do is prime it. Basically push all the air out of the pump so you don't cause any damage to it. So we connect our inlet hose, put the outlet somewhere where the water can drain, and then fully open our tap, or if you're watching in America, the faucet. The main advantage of this method is you can go ahead and let the machine prime itself while you set up the rest of your equipment, rather than have to stand there with your hand on the trigger lance. Lance trigger. Trigger. After you've let the water run through for 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it takes you to get everything else ready, you then lift your full control gun and the adjustable Vario jet lance, which I'll come back to very shortly, and connect the hose into the trigger. Now I find it easier to pull the trigger down while you're doing this. Certainly reduces the risk of any splashback, and nobody wants that. So doing it this way, you can actually see and hear the last few pockets of air coming out of the machine. So I do this for another 20 or 30 seconds and then I'm ready to go. Now it may seem like quite a long, tedious process, but at the end of the day, it's doing things like this that'll help your machine last those 5 to 10 years rather than giving off because the machine broke down after 2. So I said I'd come back to the Vario lance, and I'm a man of my word. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not really overly fussed on this attachment. I think the idea is good, and certainly for probably the majority of people buying this machine, it does work perfectly for them. It's just for me, it's not suitable. If I'm using this, I'm going to have it up full power all the time anyway, and if I want to use the other functions, the likes of dispensing soap solutions, I'd rather just use a separate attachment for it. But I know I'm being overly critical here, and as I say, I'm sure for the overwhelming majority of domestic users, this is absolutely fine and it's a good system for them. It's just not for me, that's all. But forgetting about the adjustable functions for a second, what does the machine actually like to use out of the box? Well, apart from the bloody hose, the machine is absolutely fantastic. The trigger itself is light and easy to use, it doesn't put any strain on your wrists. The pressure difference between this and the K2 is a massive step up. If, like myself, you had been using a 100 or 110 bar machine for a few years, this is definitely a worthwhile upgrade. You'll notice a difference straight away, and for less than £200 you definitely will not regret it. Despite the fact that I'm not a massive fan of the functions of the variable nozzle, the lance itself is brilliant, the power output is great, it's light, it's easy to use. The only major issue I have with the machine, which anybody who's ever bought any Kärcher will have the same issue, is that hose. The standard thermoplastic hose you get is absolutely rubbish. Even the 8-meter one you get with the K4. It's not long enough, it's too stiff, it kinks, it coils up, it's a tripping hazard, so that's the first thing that has to go. Luckily enough, there are plenty of replacement options available, and the one you see here is a 15-meter reinforced flexible rubber hose from Direct Hoses. Now this is not me trying to promote Direct Hoses in any way, shape or form. The same or similar are available in many places, I just happen to get mine at Direct Hoses. Just make sure if you do decide to order one of these hoses that you get a length that's suitable, don't get any longer than you need, and ensure that you order the correct connectors for your type of machine and indeed for your lance. So what about actually changing the hose? Well, that process couldn't be any easier. You simply remove the C-clip from the back of the machine and pull the old hose out. No screws, nuts, bolts or any technical expertise required for this. And then simply feed the new hose through the same gap. And just remember to allow yourself enough access to bend the new hose into position to insert it into the outlet. Remember to reinsert the retaining clip and just give the hose a gentle tug, just to ensure that it's in position properly and you're ready to go. It really is that simple to upgrade your Kärcher hose. So when you're happy everything's secured, you can now discover the only one possible negative impact of the longer hose. It's longer, it's stronger, and with that means it's a lot heavier. So as we compare the two hoses side by side, the length is immediately obvious, but you would have known that before purchasing it. But even comparing the hoses visually, you can see the older one at the top, it's narrower, it's like a hard plastic, whereas the one below, it's a thicker, much more durable, much stronger hose. So the only possible issue, as I already mentioned, is the extra weight. It is considerably heavier, and some users may find that causes excess strain on their wrists after prolonged use. I didn't find it an issue, but some people might. So moving on then, what else can we upgrade with this machine? Well, the only other obvious thing really is the lance itself. So as good as the standard trigger is, by the time you add on the Vario lance, it is quite lengthy. And if you're working in tight spaces or trying to get in under arches or even underneath the car, sometimes that can be a bit of an issue. So just as with the hose, there's plenty of short trigger options available. The one I have here is from Into Detailing, but you can buy variations of these most detailing outlets. So what are the main advantages of the short trigger? Well, first of all, as you can see here, you have a full 360 movement in your trigger, which significantly reduces the risk of your hose kinking. Also, because the majority of these triggers come with a practically universal 1/4 inch quick release system, your different nozzles, extensions, lances are all interchangeable. So the first one we have here is what's labelled as the 40-degree nozzle, which is typically the widest fan available. Next up is the green 25-degree nozzle, what I like to refer to as the medium one. As you can see here, it's slightly narrower than the white, but not a huge difference. And the third and final one then is the 15-degree orange nozzle, the narrowest of the bunch, which, due to the fact that the same volume of water is coming out through a much narrower angle, it applies greater pressure to the surface. Now, you may have read or seen online in recent months about how some of the cheaper versions of these nozzles may not be exactly 40, 25, 15 degrees or whatever, but to me that isn't even relevant. So long as I can differentiate between a wide fan here, the white one, the medium one, the green, and the narrow one, the orange, I'm happy enough, to be fair. So it's not just the nozzles themselves we can change, there's other accessories. I have here a swivel adapter which allows you to connect any of the nozzles and adjust them at up to a 45-degree angle in either direction. This is particularly handy for underneath the car or in around your wheel arches, where you would need to have the car jacked up about 4 feet in the air to be able to get the standard lance in underneath. You can also attach a straight extension bar if you do need a bit of extra length or you can't quite reach the area you're cleaning. Or again, you can have extension bars with an angle at the other end. And as the connectors are all the same, you can actually join all the pieces together to make longer extension bars, which can be particularly handy for cleaning larger vehicles like buses, coaches, lorries, trucks, or even other domestic jobs where you just need a bit of extra reach. So now that our hose has been upgraded to the longer, stronger version, and we've upgraded the lance to the short trigger version, what difference does this make to the cleaning experience? Well, in terms of the lance itself, no matter which nozzle I use, I just find I get a much better spray, much more consistent spray. I feel like there's an increase in pressure, and it's just easier to manage, easier to control while you're actually spraying it. And although unfortunately I have no footage of it to add in here, using the adjustable nozzle for in and around the arches does an absolutely fantastic job. And what about the hose itself? Well, as you can see here, I've gone the full way around the car, not a kink in sight, no tripping hazards, and I haven't lost my temper once. And now we can move on to our third and final upgrade for this video. Now, there are countless foam lances and Canons available on the market. I happen to own about 7 or 8 myself, but my personal favourite is this one, the MJJC Foam Cannon Pro. I won't go into too much detail here, just highlight a couple of standout features. The first one being the adjustable nozzle, so you can have your spray pattern coming out either horizontally, vertically, or anywhere in between. As for the bottle itself, it's made from a strong durable plastic with approximately a 2-inch wide neck, making it easier to pour products into. It has a very soft, flexible pickup pipe with a weighted filter at the end, meaning you can hold this at pretty much any angle and it will still pick up any fluid that remains in the bottle. Now, I do find this feature particularly useful because there are always those occasions where you've only a small amount of solution left and you don't want to top it up, but for some reason the pickup pipe just won't collect it. And the final feature I want to highlight is the fact you can remove the connector by hand, which you can do with a few other lances. This gives you easy access to where you would change your orifice. So if you have a smaller machine and you want to put a smaller orifice in to generate higher foam, it gives you access to that. It also means you can change the connector for either the Kärcher type, Nilfisk, whatever machine you happen to use, or indeed the quick release one which I have here. And when you're reattaching it, just screw it on by hand, no need for any PTFE tape, just make sure it's on nice and tight. We're now ready to fill it with solution and get some foam onto the car. And because we do have the quick release trigger, it's just a matter of removing the nozzle or extension lance, whatever you have on there, put the snow foam cannon on, and we're ready to foam the car. Now, if you remember, the hose went all the way around the car, so now we're simply going in the opposite direction. And I'm going to play this in real time, just to see how quickly we can get around the car with the foam. And there we are then, thanks to our new setup, we're able to foam the car from start to finish in 45 seconds. What more can you ask for? And And when it comes to rinsing the products off again, the machine, combined with the new accessories we've added onto it, just make it an absolute breeze. As I mentioned in my last Kärcher video, to me, upgrading from the K2 to the K4 was a no-brainer. But like anything in life, I suppose it has to be within your means and justifiable. If you can afford to spend £500 to £1,000 or upwards on a Kranzel or whatever you want to go for, and you can justify that, then by all means go for it. This is where my budget is, and this is what I can justify spending on a machine, and I'm more than happy with the results I can achieve with it. In summary then, I think out of the box the K4 is a fantastic machine. As a domestic pressure washer for under £200, I don't think there's really many could beat it. But like all things in life, it's not going to be perfect for every individual. That's why the upgrades I've mentioned in this video are the options that I've chosen to suit my particular needs. So over the last 18 months, I've built up a setup that suits me perfectly, and I'm very happy with it. And to be honest, I haven't really much more to add at this stage. If you've made it this far and you enjoyed the video, by all means give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. Other than that, thanks again for watching and take care.